recognizing a sense of urgency is a very critical skill that a leader has to instill in their team, because otherwise people become very complacent very quickly, and it's when I get to it.
What has been your approach to communicating the vision and the strategic direction to the team and ensuring that they understand the sense of urgency that's required to achieve it?
Yeah, great question. I would say to you that, outside of, they say make the vision clear and make sure it's well communicated, and beyond the visible on a wall kind of approach, because and I feel the same way about strategic plans, right? Where you write a plan and you just kind of check a box. But it's the execution that matters. And the same thing is for the vision, because part of the thing, and when I tell you I'm a very deliberate leader, it's making sure that I am also at times the face that the team sees, right? Communicating that vision. Yes, we have a leadership team, but there's some messages that need to come from me. And I'm very intentional about which messages I'm delivering. So anything that is another layer of the vision that we are about to embark on, that message comes directly from me, so that they understand their particular role in the process that we are about to embark on, that is tied to the vision. That is the vision doesn't really change. I said that how we navigate, and even the goals that help us to get there, but the big overarching vision is one that kind of is a North Star that's guiding us, and keeping the team on the right track. And also, anytime I see that we're going off track from the vision, or anytime I see that the value system is kind of feeling a little wonky, these are the points at which I step back and then are very visible to the team, because I have to bring it back together, and as I joke around with them all the time and say they're a typical family, there's so much love, and then there's so much disruptive behaviors that are counterproductive to where we want to go. So I'm very intentional about when I kind of bring it back together and refocus the team. I may do so through general communications, but I think because of the personality I bring, where I can be firm and candid, but still personable, that I deliver those sessions in person. So very much getting the group together, and it's very important as a leader to know when you need to do so, to know when you do those pulse checks to understand what's happening within your business.
Excellent, excellent. I would give anything to be a fly on the wall when you're having your sessions with your team to get them behind the vision. And one of the things that I wanted you to spend some time on as well is navigating. I mean, everyone is talking about toxic, but I saw a post recently on LinkedIn, and it spoke about not every culture is toxic. In some instances, it may be that there is simple misalignment of values. There's simple misalignment of roles. It could be a case where you're simply not the right fit for the organization, or the organization is really not a right fit for you. What's your view on that particular topic? And how have you navigated misalignment, cultural misalignment within your organization?
I think it's a very interesting one. And, again, in society, we have all these buzzwords, and toxic cultures is definitely one of them. I do think that, and I've had this conversation recently with another executive, and we were talking about how, I'm not sure if it's a post-COVID symptom, where everything seems so heavy, the level of tolerance for your peers, and just generally how you interact and your attitude generally there's something just a little off about people in general. And therefore it's translating into the business environment and making it appear as though, everyone is on edge, and therefore that's translating and having an impact on morale. Sometimes people don't have sufficient grace or social intelligence skills. So therefore they're not conscious of when a team member is probably not at a good place, right? And so there's a heavy focus on self. So what I found is that, and I'm seeing it play out even in my organization, where leaders now have to become even more deliberate to not just know the team by the assignment that they're passing on, but to really know the people that they're leading, so that they can be able to spot these nuances in behavior, or when they see new traits creeping in, so that they can attack them at the core very early. And if you have leaders that are not strong enough or lack their own emotional intelligence to be able to spot these things, that is where the imbalance is happening. And that is what is now being described as toxic culture, right? That's just my personal assessment. So just in terms of how we navigate to that, I don't always think it's a misalignment of the person. I think that the employee assistance programs that the companies either have or don't have, they have to now establish whether they're adequate enough. Because whether we want to accept it or not, a lot of people are struggling, right? And one of the things that I've done this year and kind of looking forward to kind of rolling out to the team is to enhance what was already there. Because when you have good team members that for whatever reason are now showing cracks in their performance, that's a clear indication that something is off. And if that crack has now filtered through to impact the relationship of themselves and their other peers, that means that it's now becoming a little systemic, right? And if you don't address to these things early, then you now have a culture that is now misaligned. So that's the deeper problem. So it's how do you try to tackle and what programs and initiatives? And one of the things that I did last year, just as I felt like if something was off, and I got the team together and we did a retreat where our focus was purpose, passion, and perseverance, because they're going to be challenging times you're going to meet. But if you're disjointed, then it's going to feel even harder, right? There's this invisible eye in team, as I like to tell them, where you have to do your part. I have to do my part to make sure that the team collectively is in sync with the responsibilities that they have. But then how do we also make the place fun? Because we spend most of our life at work. So you want to be comfortable. And that's one of the reasons why I've never been a very stiff leader. I'm a very casual leader, but I've been able to balance that over the years with being firm as well, because that is also very important in your leadership. It is. And I'm hearing this consistently from every single person, when I catch up with other leaders in the Barbados market for just to, just touch base. Everyone is feeling as though they're having an issue with this thing called toxic culture, but I'm not really sure if it is systemic as yet. And if it isn't, then it's how do we get to the point where we could start to reverse some of the cracks that are happening within the organizations.
And it goes right back to intentional leadership.
Yes.
Intentional leadership. I love how you have a pulse on the organization as a leader by simply ensuring that you are in tune, simply ensuring that you're in the trenches with your team. We speak a lot about employee engagement, but I like to speak about leadership engagement as well. Are you engaged in your teams as a leader? Do you know when something has shifted? Do you know when it's time to take a step back and have a retreat? Passion, purpose, perseverance. Do you know the timing of the interventions that is required and so forth? And I absolutely love that is what is coming out in this episode. When we speak about leading with purpose, right? It is an intentional journey. It is not something where you're simply checking boxes. It's not something where your HR team, your HR professional like myself comes to you and say, hey, let's do an engagement survey, right? It is you being engaged first as a leader into your team as well, so that you can always have a pulse on the engagement of the organization, as opposed to simply measuring whether someone thinks the organization is a good environment, or measuring if they will refer to a friend. There's time for that, but on a day-to-day basis, there's time for this level of intentionality.
Yeah.
And I'm so
Yeah.
really happy that that came out in
Yeah.
this episode. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it is important that as a leader to, I always say to persons, and this is where a lot of middle managers kind of struggle, because you respect is due, right? But respect is either earned or it's demanded. And the best leaders I've found are the leaders that are able to earn respect. And then that translates to how you engage with your team and how they engage with you. And I think that that is one of the things that I continue to be very intentional about. And that's why when I was young in my career, I had this manager that used to talk about every Friday. I would not see him for the whole week. He'll be so deep in meetings and everything. And every Friday he's in front of us, like each and every one of us, and he's just moving through the floor. And I'm thinking, and then one day, and I recognized it very early, and one day I just said to him, so how come we only see you on Fridays? And he says, well, obviously, besides the schedule, he says it's called management by walking about. This is how I get to know you. This is how, and I'm intentional to make sure that if I come out here on a Friday and I see you looking a little off, I could say, well, let's say, Susan, did you notice that Alison is off today? What's happening here? And so it's having those moments where I'm like, carefree, jovial self just going around and disrupting the team and, being funny about it so that I could set the moods and the vibe within the group, within the team.
Yeah, yeah. I really hope you guys are listening. I hope you guys are taking notes. But most importantly, I hope that what Alison is sharing with you is leaving a desire within you to want to elevate your leadership, to want to go back into your workspace and be a more transformative leader, contributing to creating a positive work culture, because that's our goal here at the Culture Zone. We want to magnify these particular topics. Hear from persons like Alison and a few others that you're going to see who has the experience, who has experienced both sides of the coin, and are well positioned to be able to share with you some of the things that they've navigated, but also to encourage you to keep on your own leadership journey. So, Alison, I want to give you one final question to encourage leaders who are listening today who might feel as though they have lost sight of, or the organization has lost sight of its purpose, and are trying to figure out, how do I realign the vision of my organization with the values of the daily operations? How do I mobilize my teams? How do I communicate what's really important to us, so that we can continue to, or get onto that path of acceleration and success?
What I would say, and this is just something I would say to any new or existing leader who is at that place or at that crossroad of feeling as though there is an imbalance. I think sometimes we have to be able to do a self-assessment. Just take yourself out of it for a bit. And whether that is through coaching, whether that is just through self-isolation, and really spend some time with yourself and understanding how effective you are. Ask yourself if first and foremost as a leader, you are the one that is misaligned. Because sometimes then we can go so hard on the targets that we can forget the people. Or sometimes we're so focused on the people that we forget the strategy. And it's sometimes the only way you can really reassess if first and foremost you are the one that's misaligned is by stepping back. And when you do that exercise, I mean, I'm a very reflective person, so this is something that I've practice as part of my own life in general. I can't even say leadership. And sometimes there's a story there. And sometimes you actually see that because you don't have sufficient clarity, and that is translated into how you're communicating. That's translating into your decision making. And while we're on decision making, let me just tell you, and this is something that's also having an impact on culture in organizations, where universality in how we are making decisions is also having a negative impact. Because when you are making decisions that it impacts everyone, you have to be sure that you're doing the right thing. You have to be intentional, not to do the best thing, but to do the right thing. I think that is so important. And this is where I see a lot of people struggle a bit, where you wanna have a nice fuzzy feeling, but you really just want to do the right thing, and you want to understand and be solid in the decision making that led you to that decision. It is so important when you are in a position where every single thing you impacts everyone. So that is something that, again, you only get to a point of being able to be firm in those kind of decisions that are not going to be the favorite decisions, but you can stand by them. And I can guarantee you that your team has a lot more respect for you when you are in a position to say, sorry guys, this is what it's gonna be, but here's the reason why. And you're then in a position to help them to understand, even in the hard times, why this decision is being made. And then the final point I would say is that part of leading by purpose is really understanding your God-given assignment, right? Why are you here? What purpose are you serving? Are you bringing your best self? And what does your best self look like? How are you elevating? Because that's the other thing. If you are not showing signs of elevation, then how are you going to influence your people? Right? How are you going to inspire them? I always say to the team, I cannot motivate you. Motivation is intrinsic, but I can and I will create an environment for you to flourish. And that is what I find that more leaders need to be focused on, because I'm not going to come and ask, why is this person not motivated? That's a personal thing. People have personal distractions. But every single day you have an obligation to create an environment that you would want to work in. And I think that is where I would be.
I have nothing else to add. You have said it perfectly. And I really hope that you guys are listening and you're inspired to elevate your leadership and your standard. Alison, thank you so much. I know that your schedule is a very hectic one, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join us here at the Culture Zone, powered by IGC Group. And I really look forward to continuing this relationship and supporting you and cheering you guys on, because you're doing some great work. And I hope that your team appreciates everything that you're doing as a leader, because I know it's coming from the heart. So God bless you, and thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. The Culture Zone is definitely, I know that a lot of things you do are things that God lays on your heart and you're passionate about. And I'm just glad that I made the time to have this discussion. Continue to stay blessed, my dear.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye everyone.